Hello and a warm welcome to Federal's special program, Capital Beat. Ahead of the Monsoon Session of Parliament, the opposition parties of the India Bloc will hold an online meeting this evening around 7 o'clock to strategize on the issues which are to be raised during the Monsoon Session that's beginning on Monday. Now, the meeting of the India Bloc will take place after a long gap and will be the first since last year's Lok Sabha elections, in which the opposition obviously had put up a decent fight but failed to dislodge the BJP-led NDA government from the center. Now, the opposition is expected to raise a number of issues during this monsoon session, say, for example, Operation Sindoor, Bihar's special intensive revision of the electoral rolls. Apart from that, also the impeachment motion of Justice Yashawant Varma and the case of Justice Shekhar Yadav. But the big question is that, of course, the first question which we are going to be asking is that what are the expectations from this monsoon session? Now, will this session be effective in terms of the business that's going to be transacted? And or will it turn into a washout? That is also a fear which everybody is talking about, because this is probably going to be one of the stormiest sessions because of the number of issues on which the government has to answer. And how will the politics play out? Because ahead of the Bihar elections, this session will really close down. So lots of questions there. And so let's get straight into the discussion. Joining me this evening is Javed Ansari, senior journalist and political commentator. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. We have Puneet Nicholas Yadav, political editor of the Federal. Thank you so much, Puneet, for joining. And let me begin with Javed Ansari. Is this going to be one of the most challenging sessions, according to you, which the BJP government will be facing?
Look, every session is challenging. And I think my expectation of this session is very basic, that it will function at least. It will function more days and adjourn for lesser number of days than it has done in the past. This could, at the end of the day, end of the session, prove to be wishful thinking. But anyway, at least in this country, we are allowed to wish, if nothing else. So I'm hoping, and my wish is that Parliament will be allowed to function. Everything else will follow. Obviously, Operation Sindoor, the fallout, and Indian foreign policy seemingly ineffectiveness will hog the agenda, as will Bihar and sundry other issues. Every day turns out to be, yet another embarrassment for the government of India, especially on the foreign policy front. While our soldiers did a fantastic job, and they warded off Pakistan, not just warded off Pakistan, but inflicted heavy damage on Pakistan. Our foreign policy outreach has been negligible compared to what it should have been. We had put all our eggs in the basket of my friend Donald. Now, Donald has turned out to be the main chief spokesperson of Pakistan. What has gone wrong? Where did we go wrong? Where have we faltered? Since they lack talent, they borrowed Mr. Shashi Tharoor. He went to the US, hoping to impress them and hoping to persuade them to change tack, but they haven't. And every day, Mr. Donald Trump comes up with something which embarrasses India. This is not how allies should behave. This is how enemies, foes behave. Today he says that 6 aircraft were downed. Yesterday, by last count, it was the 19th time he had claimed credit for bringing about a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And it's not just a question of ceasefire. The very fact that he mentioned initially that they've agreed to meet at a quieter place and sort out differences and we'll do a bit, which meant also that he was, at least his understanding was, that India was willing for a third party intervention. And if that is the case, then it's a radical departure from India's stated position on this issue. So there is much that the government will have to answer, provided, of course, the House functions and provided the opposition can get its act together. Another issue, apart from Operation Sindoor and the failure of India's foreign policy is the impending trade deal with the US. If Mr. Trump is to be believed, then it will be on the lines of the one that has been enacted with arrived upon with Indonesia, which means that US will have full access to their core sectors. So our core sectors being agriculture, pharma, and steel. And with Indonesia, the deal is that Indonesian goods will be taxed, but Americans will have free run of the place. So if that happens, then all hell will break loose. Because if it will break the backbone of our economy. If Americans are allowed free entry into the farming sector, into pharma, into the medicine sector, and into steel, then what is left? And if the government of India, for one reason or the other, caves in and gives in to this demand, then the farming community, as it is not very enamored by Pradhan Sevak. And now after this, we'll just have to wait and see how things react. Of course, the revision of roles, etc. But like I said, everything depends if the House functions. And I'm sure in the early days, you can take it from me, no such thing will happen.
Right. But coming to the India Alliance meeting and coming to you, Puneet, how is this India Alliance meeting going to be different? Because few days back, even Mr. Kharge had tweeted out about the agenda, what's going to be like. But this evening's India Alliance meeting, how does it look very different from the rest of the meetings which have happened? Of course, this is going to be the first meeting after 2024 elections. Have they planned anything which is very, very different? Because the kind of agendas which are there on the plate, they are not easy agendas. And obviously, opposition will have to do a lot of homework on how to counter the government and how to get the answers.
Well, Neelu, I don't think, as far as the meeting of the India Bloc today is concerned, I think, there's no doubt on what kind of an agenda, because the issues that, Javed Saab just spoke about are the issues that have been agitating everybody in the opposition. Starting with the Pahalgam terror attack, what were the reasons behind it? Was there an intelligence failure or a government failure on that part? Because remember that J&K, state police, central forces, everything is now under the center. It's a union territory. So what were the failures that took place there? Because Operation Sindoor, the subsequent diplomatic failures of the government, the isolation of the country at a world stage, all of that flowed from what happened on the 22nd of April in Pahalgam. So that is there. Sindoor is there. Post-Sindoor scenario is there. Bihar SIR is there. The threat that an SIR will be conducted in other states subsequent to the one in Bihar is looming large. So there is no doubt in anybody's mind in the opposition, to the best of my understanding, that these are the issues on which they all need to bandy together. I think, in fact, one of the reasons why they have all decided to come together after a very long gap is the importance of these issues. Please don't, you do bear in mind that all through the winter session of Parliament, all through that session, the daily meeting for floor strategy coordination that the Congress president and Rajya Sabha LOP, Mr. Kharge, used to convene, that practice itself had been disbanded. Of calling the India Alliance floor leaders every morning before Parliament starts to have that kind of a coordination and floor strategy. Even that was not happening in the winter session. In fact, towards the latter half of the last monsoon session, that practice was disbanded because the opposition wasn't finding, there were various frictions within the India Bloc. There were issues that different parties wanted to raise differently, all of that. So in that sense, yes, optics, all of that is fine for the alliance to be coming together today, to, be putting their heads together, thinking of what kind of a common strategy they can have. My issue here is that there is a larger question that the opposition leaders today need to discuss when they meet, which is whether they want the India Alliance to function purely as an alliance that gets together when Parliament is in session and disbands the moment Parliament is not in session. You know, the idea of the India bloc, is it going to be limited to Parliament sessions? That is the question that opposition leaders today need to also reflect upon. I don't know whether that will actually happen when the leaders log in virtually for the meeting this evening, but that is one question. Anybody you speak to in the opposition will tell you that, the whole thing of an India bloc that came together, which had some success in inflicting electoral damage on the BJP during the Lok Sabha elections, which showed that promise even for future elections. That is now more or less an idea that remains only in our imagination.
No, but Puneet, also this bit that, who is attending and who is not attending the India Alliance meeting. Of course, Aam Aadmi Party is out of question now because they've themselves separated themselves from the India bloc. But also Mamata Banerjee is not attending. I think she's sending Abhishek Banerjee. That's what I read. But is there any other party which is not in attendance? Are you aware of that? Could you shed some light on that?
No, as far as I know, I think most of the others are attending. The AAP is not, which they've made amply clear. But the very fact that Trinamool, Ms. Mamata Banerjee may not be attending herself, but the fact that she has agreed to at least participate in the meeting in itself has its, significance for the alliance, because the last several months you've seen, the Trinamool Congress playing very difficult to get for the alliance. In fact, during the monsoon session and then subsequently, especially after the Maharashtra elections, you had Trinamool MPs on record saying that the Congress should not be the central force behind the India bloc. It has to be the Trinamool. As long as it's not the Trinamool, there's no point of having these meetings and all of that. So for her to come back to the table, and that too at a time when she knows that next year you have the Bengal elections, where this proximity with the Congress and the left on the platform may not be a very good idea for her. Despite that, for her to agree to come is a gain for the India Alliance for today. But as I said, the larger question of what happens after the session is over, or what happens beyond the proceedings of Parliament, is a question for the opposition leaders to reflect upon. Whether they are staying true to the cause of the India Alliance, the reasons why it was, because after a very short and gap, of a very short lull post the shock that the BJP received in the Lok Sabha elections, you see all those problems cropping up again. You have investigative agencies hounding opposition leaders once again. You have issues of social communal strife once again. You have the issue of the election commission and the alleged manipulation of elections, electoral systems. All those reasons that brought the India Alliance together are back in the game right now, are again at play. So do you want to still stay limited to just Parliament strategy? That's, as I said, something to reflect upon for the opposition.
Right. And you rightly pointed out that there are all the reasons now for India bloc to come together, but can they sustain? Javed, coming to you now, that whenever there is a state election, those political compulsions or whether to ally, whether not to ally, all those things come up. Now, can India bloc really shed their differences, whether it is the state elections or not? But there is a larger cause for them to bandy together now. Say, for example, what's happening in Bihar is almost unprecedented in the name of special intensive revision. There are so many videos now which are doing the rounds, and election commission's claims, and then what the reality which is seen on the ground. Apart from that, also the kind of pressures through ED, CBI, all those things were there during 2024 elections when they came up, what Puneet just pointed out. Can India bloc, will they be able to set aside their differences? Because that looks really, really unbelievable that, they'll be able to smoothen and iron out their differences and come together as one.
Well, that's the million-dollar question. And if the past is anything to go by, then it's not very encouraging. The signs are not very encouraging. They have 1,000,001 reasons to come together, but it's only their genius that finds one reason that will make all this come unstuck, and they go their disparate ways. VP Singh headed a coalition of two of the most unlikely partners, the BJP and the left. And he was famously quoted as saying that coalition politics is the art of managing contradictions. And he managed that contradiction for as long as possible. I mean, coalitions lasted, they may never have lasted full term in parliament, but coalitions were the norm of politics for those 10 years. Now, what we see is the failure. And here, primarily, I mean, everybody is to blame. The onus is on the Congress party, the single largest party, the LOP. It is your job to take people together. And that sometimes means that you don't, or it doesn't always have to be your agenda. What you decide cannot form the agenda of the Indian alliance. Trinamool may have other sensitivities. Samajwadi may have something else. Sharad Pawar's party may feel strongly about something else, as would DMK. You have to allow them, give them that moment in the sun. It just cannot be Adani every time, By all means, go after Adani. But there are more pressing issues. Those issues need to be. The India Alliance, I've spoken to several of these people. They feel neglected. They don't feel a part of scheme things. The Congress in its mind feels that the alliance was only till the election. But for form's sake, for the sake of optics, wants to take everybody together. I mean, how is Congress party strengthening itself if all the other, if the India Alliance goes its disparate ways? Look at what has happened. BJP performed way below expectations in the Lok Sabha elections. Yet they've consolidated. The India Alliance surprised everybody, including itself, by its performance, and yet they seem to be falling apart. It's more a notion than in reality, the India Alliance. The fault lies with them, but it's still not too late. And I slightly disagree with Puneet. At least take the baby steps. At least get your floor coordination right. That could be the first step. And then take it forward. Draw up an agenda of issues and then act upon it. The question of India Alliance outside, well, India Alliance, whether DMK supports, joins hands in the Bihar elections or not, doesn't really matter too much, or in Calcutta. Similarly, whether TMC joins hands in Andhra Pradesh with the opposition or in Tamil Nadu doesn't matter on the ground. But at least, for optics' sake, they need to be together. These are issues. Today it's happening in Bihar, tomorrow Bengal, then Assam, then it will be Tamil Nadu, and the opposition will not have a leg to stand on. The Congress needs to show that they exhibit some political management skills. Take the opposition into account. Now, how disrespectful is this? It doesn't look very nice. Leaders of other political parties are speaking, the LOP gets up and walks away. I mean, what does this mean? Forget everybody else. Learn from Mrs. Sonia Gandhi's example. When she was LOP, she sat from morning till evening. Every time she was present in the House, she made an effort to reach out to people. She forgave Purno Sangma. She decided to bury the hatchet with Mr. Sharad Pawar, with Ram Vilas Paswan. She brought all these people together. You don't even have that onerous task. All you've been asked to do is coordinate, ensure some floor coordination in Parliament. And even there, you're failing abysmally. By raising Adani, how many seats is Congress party getting? All the time it's just you can't be a one-trick pony, You need to broad base. You need to, and there are different issues which agitate different people. So the Congress must take the lead, and the Trinamool, the SP, and all the others must follow them.
Yeah. So Congress, what you said, that Congress needs to take a lead in this.
Because the Congress is the single largest, because they are the main opposition party, therefore the onus is on them on taking the lead.
No, but that's what the question I was going to ask Puneet. That Puneet, for Congress to take a lead is it that challenging? Because there were so many things. We remember we discussed that there was supposed to be a Congress, a Congress-led secretariat, an India Alliance secretariat. All those things never happened. And even though the reasons remain the same, for which you're saying that the reasons again have come back for which they need to come together. So do you think that now Congress will start thinking of a serious secretariat and a proper functioning of the India Alliance? I remember so many journalists, everyone was saying, they don't have a logo for the India Alliance, they don't have a banner, they don't have an office, they don't have a secretariat, nobody knows how to function. So in that sense, is today's meeting really going to think on those lines? Or it's going to be like what Javed Ansari said, that it's just for optics that they together and they need to do something before the parliament session begins?
No, well, I don't think any of those things is going to happen. And see, I'm not even expecting, see, banner, logo, and all is immaterial. The point is a common agenda. Can you at least come onto a common agenda? If you're not even able to do that, you're not even be able to reach out to a DMK or a Trinamool or a Sharad Pawar NCP, Uddhav Shiv Sena, and say that, okay, these are the issues that we have. What are your issues? Let's find a common ground. Instead of, the other day I was speaking to one of the party leaders, Congress leaders, and I asked, okay, India Alliance meeting and all, and they rattled out a laundry list of issues that the Congress wants the opposition to basically co-opt. And I said, I asked the person concerned that, the SP has certain issues from UP, and, the DMK and the Trinamool have certain issues. What about those? Will they be taken up for discussion? They said, yeah, but then those are state-specific issues, It's more important that we look at the larger picture. You can't make your allies feel that, they are they're less important, that their issues don't matter. It doesn't work like that. And as Javed Sahab was saying, the onus is on the Congress party. They have to take the lead. They need to make the allies feel welcome. Now look at what Mr. Rahul Gandhi did yesterday in Kerala. One understands that Kerala goes to polls next year, the Congress and the left, face each other there and all that. But then to go and make that statement about the left, about the CPM and the RSS in the same breath, and that too on the eve of the India Alliance meeting, what sense does that make? And then you see, and naturally, a reaction coming from Mr. M.A. Baby in the evening. If you see the video statement that Mr. Baby put out, it's laughable that you're having this India meeting now after this kind of bad blood on the eve of the meeting between one of your most strident kind of allies at the national level when it comes to the India bloc. The same situation happens when it comes to the Trinamool. Even forget, these are still larger states. Look at what is happening with Mr. Omar Abdullah's party in Kashmir. The Congress and the National Conference don't seem to see eye to eye on any issue anymore in J&K. So, the Congress decided that they're not going to join Mr. Abdullah's cabinet. The reasons for that were all, again, very flaky, I'm sorry to say, for not being part of that. You have absolutely no actionable plan, actionable blueprint to either take on the BJP unitedly or, give shape to the India Alliance, whether inside Parliament or outside. That is the basic problem. And as Javed Sahab pointed out, I completely agree that the fault lies with the style of the Congress leadership when it comes to the alliance. You can't just wake up one fine day and say, okay, let's call a meeting.
That's right. But I just don't understand, Javiji. Like, we've discussed all these points so many times just before the 2024 elections. The same questions came up, and it's like almost 1.5 years later, again, we are back to square one, discussing that why is Congress not pulling up its socks? Why is Congress not taking lessons? Why is Congress treating its allies so shabbily? Now, has Congress lost the hunger to come back to power? Though Rahul Gandhi did a Bharat Jodo Yatra, he did a lot of hard work, and he tried to bring the party on track. But then again, the entire party seems to be losing the track, and therefore India Alliance looks so amorphous.
They want to come back to power, but they don't know how. And to anybody who believes that either the Congress party, or Trinamool Congress, or the DMK, the SP, or Sharad Pawar, NCP, or any of these parties can come to power at the center single-handedly or defeat BJP single-handedly is living in, needs to get his or her head examined. None of them have that capacity. The only way they stand a chance, and I underline stand a chance, is if they all band it together into a cohesive and then present themselves as a viable unit. Not band together just 2 weeks before the elections, but you have a joint action program, go around the country, whole public. The people must be convinced. You can't be a pro-leave alliance and then expect to be able for people to buy this. People have experimented, have seen how this kind of experiments have fared in the past, and they're not going to be fooled together. And you need to keep the larger picture in mind. What is the larger picture? Is it to strengthen your own party? And this applies to each of the constituents. Is it to strengthen their own party or to defeat the BJP? You talk to them, they will all say, no, we at all costs, we should pay no matter what the price, but we must defeat BJP. We must sacrifice. When they say that, what they actually mean is that everybody else will sacrifice except me, except my party. This is what happens when seat negotiations happen, when these things happen. Okay, you equate CPM and RSS. Then why are you allying with them in Bengal? Immediately, in the same sentence or same breath, he should have announced that that this alliance is over. And how can you ally? Do you even realize the import of what you're saying? That you are allying with a party whose ideology, who you've likened to the RSS. What is this? What are we talking about? And parties and prospects are not strengthened by giving these crazy statements or by behaving unilaterally in Parliament. I don't know if the Congress party has even gained 0.5% vote by the way it has behaved in this Lok Sabha. It hasn't.
Absolutely.
It calls for seat. Forget logo, forget spokesperson. At least, Baba, get your act together, shortlist these issues, and then act upon it in Parliament.
Right. Okay, so
if you are going to look at the world through through the eyes of a handful of your advisors who can't look beyond their nose, who can't win an election on their own, then this is what it's going to happen.
True. So, Puneet, towards the end, so this India Alliance meeting today, is it really going to decide on whether India Alliance as per se, India Alliance will exist or not? Or is it just a very, very casual meeting which has been called on virtually because many leaders couldn't travel to Delhi because they all have to reach tomorrow by evening? So is it just for optics? But sustaining the India Alliance will surely be dependent on how eager or how desperate Congress is to bring together all the parties.
Well, as far as today's meeting is concerned, I think the dominant theme, and rightly so perhaps, would be the agenda for the upcoming session of Parliament. And there, I don't see a problem because the unity on those issues.
No, there was a note which said that they will also discuss the current political scenario. Now, political scenario also includes Operation Sindoor. It includes so many other issues, SIR and so forth.
Yeah.
So all that will happen in Parliament.
All those issues are there for the session also, right? So the point is that these are all issues on which the alliance isn't uniting because they have a great thing of defeating the BJP. It is despite their problems. It's because of the issues that they have been forced to come together. Now, of course, if they're able to go beyond this, that we have to wait and see. But I don't think today's meeting is going to achieve anything more than the usual stuff of the floor management. Okay, fine. On Sindoor, on Pahalgam, on SIR, we're all together. this is, we're going to raise these issues. But as I said, I mean, that's one aspect, and nobody was expecting the opposition to, back the government entirely during Parliament session on the SIR issue or on the, diplomatic foreign affairs disasters of India and all of that. It's the compulsion of those issues that brings them together. What after that? That's the question. There are n number of issues that the government can be put on the mat, on by the opposition. Why is that not done more frequently, more religiously by the opposition? It baffles me. The last meeting of the India Alliance, which was, I mean, projected to be a meeting of the or briefing by India Bloc leaders, happened in April, and it was such a damp squib. None of you, nobody would even remember. It was a press conference, which the message went out to everyone. India Bloc leaders press conference. This was, I think, on the 15th or the 16th of April or around that time. And that press conference was on the DPDP Act, the
Yes.
Digital Personal Data Protection Act. You had only 6 members from the India Bloc parties at that press conference. And even among those 6 members, they could not all come together on the same issue, even in the press conference, where they're supposed to be projecting a united front. Even at that press conference, there were differences of opinion on how they wanted, what portions of the DPDP Act they wanted included, what they wanted excluded. That's the state of affairs in the alliance. No wonder the government is, having a field day.
Absolutely. Well, all what you can say towards the end is God save the India Alliance, but let's see what happens after the meeting, and the big question whether at all they can sustain themselves even after the monsoon session. We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Javed Ansari, Puneet. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.